The Supreme Court upholds President Trump's travel ban.
Our political professor, Ric Epps, is back with more on this. Rick, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Good to see you guys.
Okay, let's talk about this. Again, this is version, 3.0 of the travel ban. We talked about this before. What does this watered-down version of what the president originally wanted, what does this do?
Well, what it does, it gives the president the ability to basically impede those individuals from, as you know, Iran, Libya, Syria, Somalia, and Yemen, and also in the periphery of that, North Korea and Venezuela, direct access to the country. And in that, so those individuals, his argument is that, well, the infrastructure of those countries does not allow the proper vetting of individuals who want to immigrate to the United States. That's the short, sweet answer.
Sure.
Okay. Well, so can you talk about what's like the short and the long-term consequences of this ban? What this means?
Well, it's tremendous. There are a lot of consequences, and this is what the term I use, unintended consequences. This is one of those times where you're talking about not only just the separation of families, right? Because that's one aspect where you have people who've been in line forever who were in the process of being able to immigrate from those countries who now can't immigrate. But you also have a rise of anti-Americanism that's going to be a byproduct of this. And so we end up creating this sort of very isolationist bubble for ourselves, and that's a question that we have to ask as a country. Do we really want to be an isolationist country that basically has said we're going to close the doors and no one's welcome? And it's a pretty difficult place to get to.
All the lower courts had blocked this, and all of a sudden Supreme Court goes through with it. Was this more political than in previous versions, or what happened here that changed their minds?
Well, I don't think the court itself had changed its mind. I think if you go back to December of last year, where the court basically said, okay, well, we're going to let it stand, let the block stand temporarily while we get through the legalese of this. And then all of a sudden, when you looked up and, on one hand, when people said the other day after this ruling came down, were you surprised? And I said, not surprised, but disappointed. It came down directly as it would have, 5-4. You've got 5 conservatives and 5 liberals on the court. I thought it was interesting that Justice Sotomayor made a compelling and very passionate commentary about dissenting. And then on the other hand, you had a very moderate justice like Anthony Kennedy, who was a conservative, but a very moderate conservative, who basically decided that we'll look at it strictly through the legal lens, of the Constitution, but not really contend with the human factor.
So obviously we've been seeing a lot of rallies too, right? So what's the response been? We have Muslims here in the U.S. who have responded. Some of them are rallying, protesting yesterday. What globally? Can you talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. So I've talked to some of my colleagues overseas, in the Middle East that I work with and talk with frequently, and again, this just fans that flame of anti-Americanism. It creates a lot of peripheral pressure in the Middle East with some of the countries not just the countries where this is happening, but also even to some of our allies and neighbors who have embraced some of these ideas, even those who've embraced some of the refugees that have come out of some of these countries, who are looking at us going, well, you broke a lot of these countries, and yet you won't take in any of the people from the countries that you've broken. And again, it's more important what it says. It's what it says about us that I think is really disturbing in the context of immigration and the policies of immigration in this country. It's troubling a little bit.
A lot of people are wondering, has there been a significant rise, for example, in presidential power over the past decade or so, and how the presidents handle these issues? And does this help President Trump now doing what he's trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I think this is one of the things when you ask about the consequences. I think one of the consequences, for depending on the word side of the aisle you're on this, Trump tends to, this gives him a big push forward that he's going to, hang his hat on, I'm sure, and it's great for his ego. And when you look at the presidential power in this country over the last decade or two, certainly since Reagan, the rise of presidential power, and certainly you see it during cycles. Usually during cycles of crisis, you see presidential power go up, and so, as well as their popularity during wartime and during crises. In this particular situation, we see the rise of power, and in the last since 2000, you can see presidents tending to usurp more power. Obama did it because he had a contentious Congress where he couldn't get anything done, so he just used executive orders to get things done. This president is going even a step further than that, and I think it's a little scary to think that the checks and balances seem to be not in place in the way that we would expect them to be in this situation, which is also disturbing.
It's a new age for sure.
Yeah.
Gives you plenty to talk about in the classroom, does it
Yeah,
not?
absolutely.
And everywhere else.
Yeah.
Political Professor Ric Epps, we thank you as always
Good to
for
see
your
you.
insight.
Thank you.
Ric.